Hello, welcome to Bits and Biology. My name's Liz, and in this video I will be teaching you how to play Caldera Park. This is a game for 1 to 4 players by Wolfgang Kramer and Michael Kiesling, with art by Annika Heller, and published by Deep Print Games and Pegasus Spiel. Caldera Park is a tile placement game that's set in the wilderness of North America. In particular, it appears to be set in Yellowstone National Park, though this is not stated anywhere in the rule book, but I'm basing this assumption on the fact that Yellowstone National Park is the only region in North America that I'm aware of anyway, with geysers and hot springs, and it contains a large caldera that's about 28 to 43 miles in diameter, which is about 45 to 70 kilometers. Additionally, this hot springs that is shown here on the box cover, and it's also featured on the player boards, appears to be modeled after Grand Prismatic Spring, which is located in Yellowstone National Park, which I'm very familiar with because I actually worked in Yellowstone for about 5 years. In Caldera Park, players will place tiles on their player board, grouping animals of the same species together in large families. The larger, the better. And they're going to be doing this while surrounding hot springs, covering up waterfalls, and covering up river spaces, which you can see here. Also, they'll be trying to cover up particular habitats. There's forest, mountains, and prairie or grasslands. After 5 rounds of play, the player with the most victory points is going to win the game. To set up, you'll give each player a player board along with a set of animal tiles. So these are the tiles that have the animals on them, and a set of weather tiles. These are the gray tiles here, along with the sunny day tile. Player boards, you'll notice, have 2 sides. For your first few games, choose the side showing the river sign up in the top left corner. The other side has a geyser sign up in the top right corner, and this is used in a variant called Storm Warning in Geyser Park, and that's described, if you're interested, is described here on the last page of the rulebook. Each set of animal and weather tiles can be recognized by the animal track on the back of the tile. What you see here is an eagle track, and actually the game comes, I'll show you this, the game comes with these handy boxes that fit right in the middle here, and each one will hold a set of tiles. So this is the one with the eagle track. We also have a bear track, a moose track, and a marmot track. Each player is going to shuffle their animal tiles face down and take 7 of these to place at the top of their board. Next, players will take this sunny day tile and place it at the bottom of their board, and then shuffle up the rest of these weather tiles here and choose 5 of them at random and place these, keeping them face down, place these at the bottom of their board. And the remaining weather tiles will be set aside. They won't be used. From the 6 weather tiles at the bottom of the player board, you're going to choose 1 of these to place on one of these 6 weather spaces. These are the white spaces. They look kind of like they're covered by clouds. So you'll choose 1 of these, and where you start will determine where the rest of the tiles get placed, because you will work in clockwise order through the game at the start of each round. Now we'll set up the main action board. So we're going to place this round watering hole action tile here on this far right space, and then the rest of these round action tiles we will place randomly. It doesn't matter where they go. For the solo game, the only difference so far in the solo game is that you will take these 7 action tiles, you'll put them face down, shuffle them up, and then stack them face down in the middle of the board. So that's the only difference for the solo game, but we're going to set up here for a multiplayer game. And then you will choose a starting player, give them this starting player marker, this lovely marmot. It stands right up, and you're now ready to play. So Caldera Park is played over 5 rounds. Each round consists of 3 phases. It has the weather report, 7 action turns, and then we do an end of round check where we check to see if there are still player tiles at the top of everybody's board. So at the start of each round, you will complete the weather report by placing one of the remaining tiles from the base of the board, from the bottom of the player board, in the next spot clockwise from where the previous tile was placed. So at the start of round 1, you will have 2 tiles, 2 weather tiles on your board. One would be the one you place during setup, and then the one that you place at the start of round 1. Next, starting with the person with the first player marker, players are going to choose one of these round action tokens from the main board, either an animal or the watering hole, and then pair that with a habitat requirement. So for instance, bears up here in the forest, and then all the players will choose their matching animal tile that matches the action tile, so in this case a bear, and then place it in a habitat that matches what was chosen here, so in this case a forest. If a player does not have an animal or a watering hole above their board matching the action token, they can actually choose to place any of their available animal tiles. So let's say I had not had a bear available up at the top, then I could choose any of these tiles, but I would still place it in the correct habitat. If, on the other hand, I had the correct tile, but let's just say all of my forest spaces were covered up, I would take the matching animal, but I could place it anywhere else on the board if that habitat were all covered up. If, as might happen, a player doesn't have a matching animal or doesn't have an available habitat space, then they can take any of their animal tiles and place it on any space on the board. With the exception of animals can never be placed on these weather spaces, they can never be placed on the hot springs, and they can never be placed on the caldera, or the volcano in the middle of the board. Once all players have placed an animal tile, so let's say we didn't have the bear, we would still place an animal in the forest. So once all players have placed an animal tile, then they'll take another tile from their face down stack and put it above their board. You will always start your turn with a full set of animal tiles at the top of the board, if you can. I forgot to mention this watering hole tile will always go here under this wild habitat space. And what this means is players will choose one of their tiles if they have one that has a watering hole on it, but they can place it in any place on the board, any space on the board. Once all 7 action tokens have been paired with a habitat requirement, players will then do an end of round check. If there are still animal tiles above the players' boards, the first player marker will be passed to the next player in clockwise order, and players will move on to the next round. If at the end of the round there were no available animal tiles at the top of a player's board and there's no animal tiles to the side to replace the tiles that have been used, at that point we would go to end game scoring. The game is over and we would go to end game scoring. For end game scoring, you're going to follow the diagram located at the bottom of the main action board. First, you're going to check the weather tiles and turn over any animal tiles that match the conditions on the weather tile. Those tiles that get flipped over are not going to be scored. So if we start up here, we're looking for tiles that have 3 animals, like these 3 mountain goats, so we would flip that over. It will not be scored. Here we're looking for tiles with a single animal. So for instance, this eagle, that would not be scored. And here there are no animals touching, but we would be looking for bears and wolves and watering holes. If we come over here, this is the sunny day tile. And so actually this contributes to animal families. So I'll point that out in just a minute. Up here we're looking for tiles that have a watering hole or an eagle or a moose. And actually we have one with a moose and a watering hole, so it's like a double violation. We're going to flip that over. Here we're looking for bison and mountain goats and watering holes, and so we'll flip over this bison. Now hopefully you don't play a game where you have so many to flip over, but it could happen. Next you're going to, so you follow this flow chart down here. Next we're going to score the waterfalls, so we're looking for any visible waterfalls on the board, and we see that we have one down here. So you only get this 4 points if you have covered up all 6 of the waterfall spaces. And then we're going to take a look at the mountain habitat and see if that is completely covered. It is not completely covered, so we would not score the 7 points. Then we come over here to the prairie or the grasslands and see if that is completely covered. It's not. If it were, we would score 7 points. And then we come over here to forest and we can see that that is completely covered, so we would score 7 points for that. Then we next want to look at all of the river spaces. So the river starts up here at the top right of the board and ends down here at the top left and runs through the board kind of like this. We don't see any visible river spaces, so we would score 8 points for covering up all of our river spaces. Next, we will take a look at the hot springs and see how many of them are completely surrounded by animal tiles. So we can see that this hot springs is completely surrounded and this hot springs is completely surrounded, but this one is not. It has 2 spaces that are not covered. And so we will score 4 points for each of these hot springs that is completely surrounded by animal tiles. Now we're going to move on to scoring animal families. We'll start with the mountain goats, and what we're looking for is the largest animal family, and we count the number of mountain goats in that largest family. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mountain goats in this family here, and then we're going to multiply it by the number of watering holes that also have a mountain goat on that tile that's part of that family. So in this case we have 2. And we had 6 mountain goats, so we would do 6 times the 2 watering holes, so that would be 12 points for the mountain goats. Notice that this mountain goat down here is not going to score. For one thing, it's not connected to any watering holes with a mountain goat, and it's a much smaller family than these mountain goats up here. Next, we'll come to the bears, and we'll do the same thing. We see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 bears. That's the largest family I think you can have. This watering hole here would not count because it does not have a bear on it. We'll count the watering holes with bears that are part of that family. So there's 1, 2, 3 of them, and so we would score 33 points, or 11 times 3, 33 points for the bear family. Next we would come to the wolves and we would do the same thing, and then also for the moose, the eagles, and the bison. I want to point out that sometimes flipping tiles can break up your families like it did here with our eagles. So now these 3 eagles are no longer a part of this family here and would not contribute to the scoring. So we would score the eagles by counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 eagles times 1, 2, 3 watering holes, so 21 points for the eagles. So keep in mind when scoring the species that each player can only score 1 family for each of the 6 species. And also, let's take a look at these wolves, because this sunny day weather tile will contribute to the family scoring. And in fact, we should have counted it for the bears. So actually, for our bears, we would have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times 3. And so that would be 36 points. For the wolves, we would count the sunny day tile, 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 wolves. So this wolf up here doesn't count because it's separated from the rest of the family. And we have 2 watering holes that have wolves on them that are part of that family. And so we would score 11 times 2, which is 22 points for the wolves. Once all of these categories have been scored, the player with the most points is the winner. If players are tied, it will be the player with the most covered river spaces that will win the game. If players are still tied, the player with the fewest flipped animal tiles would then be the winner. And if the players are still tied in that unlikely event, they would then share the victory. And that is how you play Caldera Park. Hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. I will also be recording a solo playthrough video if you want to see how the game is played. The solo game plays very similarly to the multiplayer game, with the exception of how these action tiles come out. But it is a beat your own score solo game, but it is quite interesting. It's very puzzly. Thanks for your time and attention, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!